It's known as one of the most perfectly matched rivalries in college football. An Indiana author calls Notre Dame versus Miami the battle for the soul of college football in his new book, Perfect Rivals. And joining me this morning is that author, Jeff Carroll. Thanks so much for making the trip to Fort Wayne.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Why did you decide to write this book?
Right. Well, I was probably 11, 12 years old when these games were going on. So these were the games that hooked me on what I think is one of the greatest sports in America, in the world. I've planned my Saturdays around college football for as long as I can remember. So I grew up watching these games, then began covering Notre Dame football for a few years, ending with 2 seasons ago. And there were so many books out there about Notre Dame football, about football during the 20s and the 30s and when it was being built, but not a whole lot about the years that I remember, the formative years of my generation watching not just Notre Dame football, but college football overall. And so I thought that was a book that needed to be written, a book that I would have wanted to read, and so I just decided to take it on myself, I suppose.
Yeah, and I, being a football fan myself, I've heard of more regional rivalries, right. Like, of course, yesterday's game with Michigan and Purdue as well with Notre Dame. So what's the history behind this rivalry with Miami?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Notre Dame has always played USC out in Los Angeles the last game of the year, every other year, because USC will come to Notre Dame in September, in October and play. And so they always wanted this warm weather game to go play at the end of the year. Well, in the 50s, they added Miami to the end. They figured it was a warm weather trip, end of the season, reward for the kids, and Miami was a terrible program, so they could go out there, get an easy win, have a little vacation. Well, what happens is then in the late 70s, Miami, which was just an awful program, they almost canceled football at Miami in the mid-70s. Miami rises from ashes and becomes a powerhouse as well. And so you have the old traditional program, Notre Dame, trying to hang on to its old glory, and then this new program that Notre Dame had just beat up on for decades, all of a sudden becoming one of the dominant programs in the country. So I think Miami saw beating Notre Dame as kind of a measuring stick to become a Notre Dame, a Michigan, an Ohio State, to get to that level, and that rivalry just kind of bloomed from there. The little kid on the block finally growing up and wanting to beat up on the kid who'd beaten him up for so many years.
Definitely, and we certainly have a lot of Notre Dame fans in the area. So quickly, we're running out of time, sure. But tell people how they can pick up a copy of Perfect Rivals.
Absolutely, it should be in any Borders, Barnes & Noble bookstore. I know they sell it if you're going to the Notre Dame games, any of the home games this season. It's on all the campus bookstores, and of course at Amazon.com there is a discount. In fact, I think you can get it for about $17, so a few dollars cheaper even than you would be able to pick it up in the store.
Okay, Jeff, thanks so much for joining us to share with us about your reason for writing Perfect Rivals.
Absolutely, thank you.